Welcome to Sleepless Ancient Odyssey. The day is done. It is time now to let the noise of your world fade into silence. Find your most comfortable position, and for the next few moments, simply relax. Tonight's Odyssey is about to begin. But be warned. This is not a story of kings or battles. This is a whisper from a dark room in a forgotten castle. Tonight, you will not witness history from a safe distance. You will serve a monster. You will see her beauty. You will feel her rage, and you will clean the blood of the innocent from the floor, all while hiding the one secret that could make you her next victim. Whether you are here for a story to captivate your mind, or a grand narrative to accompany you to sleep, your journey starts now. If you enjoy these odysseys, subscribe, and join us every time we travel to the past. Now let us begin. Your name is Ilona, and you are 17 years old, when fortune smiles upon you with teeth sharp as knives. You stand in the muddy square of your village, your bare feet numb from the October cold, watching as the grand carriage rolls through streets that have never seen such splendor. The wheels are painted black and trimmed with silver, and the horses that pull it are the color of midnight, their breath steaming in the autumn air like the souls of the departed. You have been chosen. Out of all the girls in the village, trembling in their threadbare dresses, the steward's finger has pointed at you. You remember your mother's face when the news arrives at your cottage, her eyes filled with tears that you mistake for joy. She clutches you to her breast so tightly you can barely breathe, and you feel her heart hammering against your ribs like a caged bird desperate for escape. You think she is proud. You think she is happy that her daughter will serve in the household of Countess Elizabeth Báthory, the most powerful woman in all of Hungary. You do not understand why her hands shake as she packs your few possessions into a cloth bundle. You do not understand why she kisses your forehead again and again, as if trying to press a lifetime of blessings into your skin. The journey to Čachtice Castle takes 3 days. You ride in a cart with 2 other girls chosen from neighboring villages, bouncing over rutted roads that wind deeper and deeper into the Carpathian Mountains. The girl beside you, Anna, chatters nervously about the fine clothes you will wear, the good food you will eat. The other girl, Katerina, sits in silence, her fingers worrying at a wooden cross hanging from her neck until the edges grow smooth. You watch the landscape change from familiar fields to dark forests, where the trees grow so thick and tall that even at midday, the path ahead disappears into shadow. When you first see the castle, your breath catches in your throat like a physical thing, a bird trapped behind your teeth. Čachtice rises from the mountainside, as if it has grown from the very rock, its towers piercing the grey sky like accusatory fingers pointing at heaven. The walls are so high you have to crane your neck back until it aches just to see the battlements. Ravens circle the highest tower in an endless, lazy spiral, their cries echoing off the stone like the voices of the damned. This is not just a castle. This is a fortress. This is a place built to keep armies out. But as you pass through the massive iron gates, you cannot shake the feeling that it might also be built to keep something in. The courtyard is a chaos of activity. Servants scurry back and forth like ants, carrying baskets of linens, buckets of water, armloads of firewood. A blacksmith's hammer rings against an anvil in a rhythm that sounds almost like a heartbeat. Dogs bark from the kennels. Chickens scatter from beneath the cart wheels. And through it all, you smell something that will haunt you for the rest of your days. Beneath the ordinary scents of horse and hay and cooking meat, there is something else. Something metallic and sharp. Something that makes your stomach turn even though you cannot name it. Later, much later, you will recognize it as the smell of old blood soaked so deep into stone that no amount of scrubbing will ever wash it clean. You are taken first to the servants' quarters, a long, low building attached to the main keep like a growth. The head housekeeper, a woman named Dorka, with a face like spoiled milk, and hands that have clearly dealt more slaps than caresses, assigns you a pallet in a room with 7 other girls. The straw is fresh, the blanket is wool instead of the rough hemp you are used to, and there is even a small chest at the foot of your bed for your belongings. It is more luxury than you have ever known. That night, despite the strange sounds that echo through the castle walls, despite the way shadows seem to move in the corners of your vision, you fall asleep thinking you are the luckiest girl in the world. The next morning, you are brought before the Countess. The great hall is a cavern of stone and tapestry, so vast that your footsteps echo like thunder as you follow Dorka across the polished floor. Torches burn in iron brackets along the walls, but their light seems to be swallowed by the darkness rather than dispelling it. At the far end of the hall, on a chair that is not quite a throne but certainly more than a simple seat, sits Countess Elizabeth Báthory. You have never seen a woman so beautiful. She is perhaps 40 years old, though her skin is as pale and smooth as fresh cream. Her hair is black as a raven's wing, elaborately arranged and adorned with pearls that catch the torchlight like tiny moons. Her dress is crimson velvet, the color of fresh blood, embroidered with gold thread and patterns so intricate they hurt your eyes to follow. Her fingers, long and white as bone, are heavy with rings that flash and glitter as she moves. But it is her eyes that trap you, hold you, make you forget to breathe. Te aridar sodar, they seem to have no pupils, and when they fix on you, you feel as if she can see through your skin to the very soul beneath. She rises from her chair with a grace that seems impossible, as if she is not walking but floating across the floor toward you. You want to run? Every instinct in your body screams at you to turn and flee, to race back to your village, to your mother's arms, to anywhere but here. But you cannot move. You can only stand frozen as she circles you slowly, studying you the way a cat studies a mouse it has not yet decided to kill. Her hand reaches out and lifts your chin, forcing you to meet her gaze. Her touch is ice cold, and where her fingers press against your skin, you feel a numbness spreading like frost across glass. She turns your face left, then right, examining you from every angle. You can smell her perfume, roses, and something else, something sweet and rotting underneath. When she finally speaks, her voice is like honey poured over broken glass, beautiful and dangerous in equal measure. You are prettier than I expected from such a nothing little village. Your skin is clear, your teeth are straight. Yes, you will do nicely. You will be my personal handmaiden. You will tend to my chambers, my clothes, my person. You will wake when I wake, sleep when I sleep, breathe when I allow you to breathe. Do you understand? You nod because your voice has fled somewhere deep inside you where it cowers like a beaten dog. She smiles then, and you see that her teeth are very white and very sharp, and suddenly you understand why your mother wept. But it is too late now. You belong to the Countess. You belong to Lactus, and though you do not know it yet, you have just walked through the gates of hell, and they have locked behind you. Your new life begins before dawn. You are shaken awake by Dorca's rough hand, while the other girls still sleep, their breathing soft and even in the darkness. You dress quickly in the clothes that have been laid out for you. A grey wool dress, cleaner and finer than anything you have owned before. A white apron that must always be spotless, and soft leather shoes that make no sound on the stone floors. This silence, you will learn, is essential. The Countess does not like to be disturbed by the sounds of servants. You must be a ghost in her presence, there but not there, essential but invisible. The Countess's chambers are in the highest tower of the castle, up a winding staircase so narrow that your shoulders brush both walls as you climb. You carry a tray with her morning meal, fresh bread still warm from the ovens, honey from her own hives, wine mulled with spices that make your eyes water. Your arms ache by the time you reach the heavy oak door, but you have learned already that showing weakness is dangerous here. Dorca has made that clear with the back of her hand across the face of a girl who dared to complain about the weight of the water bucket. Inside the chamber, the air is thick with the smell of burning herbs and something else, something medicinal and sharp. Heavy velvet curtains block out the morning light, and dozens of candles burn on every surface, their flames reflected endlessly in mirrors that cover nearly every wall. You have never seen so many mirrors. They are framed in gold and silver, some as large as doors, others small enough to hold in your hand, and in every one of them, the Countess's face multiplies into infinity, 1,000 dark-eyed beauties watching you as you set down the tray. She sits at her dressing table, already awake, despite the early hour, studying her reflection with an intensity that makes your skin crawl. She does not acknowledge you at first. You stand silent, waiting, watching as she traces the line of her jaw with one long finger, searching for something. When she finally speaks, her voice is distant, as if she is talking to herself rather than to you. Do you see it? There, at the corner of my eye? A line that was not there yesterday. Time is a thief, Ilona. It steals from us moment by moment, so slowly we do not notice until we wake one day and find ourselves robbed of everything we once were. But I will not let it take me. I will fight it with every breath in my body. You murmur something appropriate, something agreeable, though you can see no line, no flaw in her porcelain skin. She is still the most beautiful woman you have ever seen. But beauty, you are learning, is not enough for her. She wants more than beauty. She wants perfection. She wants eternity. Your duties are precise and numerous. You must brush her hair exactly 100 strokes each morning and evening. No more, no less. The brush is silver-backed, heavy in your hand, and her hair is so long it reaches past her waist, black and glossy as oil. You must be gentle but thorough, working out every tangle without pulling. You learn this the hard way on your third day when a knot catches in the bristles and she feels the slightest tug. Her hand moves so fast you do not see it coming. The slap sends you sprawling across the floor, your ear ringing, blood filling your mouth where your teeth have cut your cheek. You lie there, stunned, as she stands over you. Her face is transformed, twisted into something monstrous, something that makes her beauty terrible to behold. Her eyes burn with a rage so pure it seems to have a physical presence, pressing down on you like a weight. You think she will kill you? You are certain of it. But then, as quickly as it came, the rage vanishes. She smooths her dress, returns to her seat, and picks up the brush, holding it out to you as if nothing has happened. Continue, she says, and be more careful. You take the brush with shaking hands and continue, counting each stroke in your head like a prayer, like a ward against evil. 72, 73, 70. The blood in your mouth tastes of copper and fear. 98, 99, 100. She dismisses you with a wave of her hand, and you flee the chamber, but not before you see her studying herself in the mirror again, turning her face this way and that, searching for flaws that exist only in her mind. The cosmetics are another ritual that must be performed with absolute precision. The Countess has an entire room dedicated to her beauty preparations. Shelves lined with glass jars and bottles containing powders and creams and oils from across Europe and beyond. There is white lead for her face, ground so fine it feels like silk between your fingers. You must apply it evenly, creating a mask of perfect polar that covers every inch of exposed skin. There is carmine for her lips, made from crushed beetles, the color of fresh blood. Coal from Egypt for her eyes, applied with a steady hand to create dark rings that make her gaze even more hypnotic. Some of the preparations are stranger. There are bottles of liquid that smell of sulfur and burnt hair. Jars of thick, yellowish cream that seem to move on their own when you open them. A small vial of something black and viscous that she sometimes adds a single drop of to her wine. You do not ask what these things are. You have learned that curiosity is another dangerous weakness in this place. The clothes are works of art, each dress more elaborate than the last. You spend hours lacing her into corsets so tight you can span her waist with your hands. The fabrics are silks from China, velvets from Italy, lace so delicate it seems made of spiderwebs. Each outfit is worn once, maybe twice, before she grows bored with it and demands something new. You are responsible for maintaining them all, for ensuring that every thread is perfect, every jewel secure. A single loose button, a barely visible stain, and her rage erupts like a volcano. But it is not the violence that disturbs you most. It is the moments of strange intimacy, when she treats you almost like a confidant, sharing thoughts that seem to come from some deep, dark place within her. She tells you about her youth, about the suitors who competed for her hand, about the power she wielded when her husband was alive and away at war. She speaks of blood as if it is sacred, as if it holds secrets that ordinary people cannot understand. Sometimes, when you are brushing her hair or helping her into a dress, she grabs your wrist and studies your skin with such intensity that you feel she might peel it off to see what lies beneath. You are young, she says during one of these moments, her fingers tracing the blue veins visible through your pale skin so very young. Do you know what a gift that is? Do you know what I would give to have what you have? You want to pull away, but her grip is surprisingly strong. You can only stand there as she continues to examine you, turning your arm this way and that, her touch clinical and somehow worse than violence. When she finally releases you, there are red marks where her fingers pressed too hard, marks that will turn to bruises by morning. At night, you lie on your pallet and listen to the other girls breathing in the darkness. Some of them whisper about the Countess, sharing stories they have heard from servants who have been here longer. They say she was always vain, but that it has grown worse in recent years, as age begins to creep up on her. They say her husband's death freed something in her, something that had been caged by his presence. They say things happen in the castle that would make God himself weep. You want to dismiss these as stories, as the kind of tales servants tell to frighten each other, but you have seen the rage that lives just beneath her beautiful surface. You have felt the wrongness that permeates this place like a sickness. And sometimes, late at night, you hear sounds from other parts of the castle. Sounds that might be wind in the towers. Sounds that might be rats in the walls. Sounds that might be something else entirely. The girl's name is Sarah, and she is 12 years old. You'll remember this detail because later, much later when you are trying to sleep, and the memories come unbidden, like wolves in the night, you will count the faces and names of all the girls, and Sarah's young face will haunt you most of all. She works in the kitchens, a position that should keep her safe from the Countess's direct attention. The kitchen servants exist in their own world of steam and smoke and shouting, ruled by a cook whose wooden spoon is more feared than any sword. But Sarah makes a mistake. She has chosen to carry a tray of sweetmeats to the Countess's chamber for an evening entertainment, and in her nervousness, she trips on the stairs. The delicate sugar sculptures, each one a work of art that took hours to create, shatter on the stone steps like frozen screams. You are in the chamber when Sarah is brought before the Countess. The girl kneels on the floor, trembling so violently that her teeth chatter. The remains of the sugar sculptures have been gathered in a basket and placed before the Countess like evidence of a murder, which, you will soon understand, they might as well be. The Countess does not rage. This is somehow worse. She is calm, cold, studying the girl with the same detached interest she might show to an insect she is about to pin to a board. "Such clumsiness," she says, her voice soft as silk. "Such devastating clumsiness. Do you know how long it took to make these? Do you know what they cost? More than your life is worth, certainly. More than 10 of your lives." Sarah tries to apologize, but her voice is so choked with tears that the words come out as meaningless sounds. The Countess rises from her chair and walks slowly around the kneeling girl. You stand frozen in the corner where you have been arranging flowers, your hands still full of roses whose thorns suddenly seem like a mercy compared to what is about to happen. "I think you need a lesson in careful movement," the Countess says. "Fico, bring the needles." Fico is the Countess's manservant, a brute of a man with arms like tree trunks, and a face that looks like it was carved from granite by someone who gave up halfway through. He enters carrying a wooden box that you have seen before, but never understood the purpose of. Now, as he opens it, you see it contains needles. Hundreds of them, some as fine as hair, others as thick as your smallest finger. All of them sharp, all of them gleaming in the candlelight like tiny swords. The Countess selects one, a middle-sized needle, about as long as your hand. She tests its point against her thumb, and a bead of blood appears, so dark it looks black in the dim light. She smiles at this, a smile that makes your stomach turn to water. Then she kneels beside Sarah, who has gone so still she might be dead already, except for the rapid rise and fall of her chest. "Hold out your hand," the Countess commands. Sarah obeys, because what else can she do? Her hand shakes as she extends it, palm up, finger splayed. The Countess takes the girl's smallest finger between her thumb and forefinger, holding it steady. Then, with the same careful precision she uses to apply her cosmetics, she slides the needle under Sarah's fingernail. The scream that tears from Sarah's throat is not human. It is the sound of pure agony, of pain so intense that it bypasses the mind entirely and comes straight from the soul. But the Countess does not stop. She pushes the needle deeper, slowly, so slowly, until it emerges from the tip of Sarah's finger, blood welling up around it like a crimson fountain. "One for each piece you destroyed," the Countess says calmly, selecting another needle. "How many were there, Fico?" 30. 43, my lady," Fico replies in his gravelly voice, and you detect something in his tone that might be enjoyment. 43 then. We must be precise in our punishments, after all. You want to look away, but you cannot. You are frozen, watching as the Countess continues her terrible work. Sarah's screams become whimpers, then silence as she faints from the pain. The Countess has Sarah revived with cold water and continues. By the time she finishes with the first hand, Sarah's fingers look like a pink, blood running down her arm in rivulets that pool on the floor. The Countess moves to the second hand, and you finally find the strength to move. You back toward the door, thinking you can slip out unnoticed, but the Countess's voice stops you. "Stay, Ilona, watch. This is what happens to clumsy servants in my household. Let it be a lesson to you as well." So you stay. You watch as Sarah's hands are transformed into mangled, bloody ruins. You watch as she loses consciousness again and again, only to be revived each time. You watch as something in the girl's eyes breaks, a light going out that will never return. And through it all, the Countess remains calm, methodical, as if she is engaged in nothing more strenuous than embroidery. When it is finally over, Sarah cannot stand. Fico has to carry her from the room, leaving a trail of blood drops, like breadcrumbs in a fairy tale. The Countess returns to her chair and picks up her wine glass as if nothing has happened. But you notice her studying her hands, examining the blood that has stained her fingers. She does not wash it off immediately. Instead, she rubs it between her fingers like oil, watching how it glistens in the candlelight. "Bring me a basin of warm water," she finally says to you, "and fresh towels." You obey, your own hands shaking as you pour water from the pitcher. When you return, She is still studying her blood-stained hands, and there is something in her expression that terrifies you more than her rage, more than her cruelty. It is fascination. Pure, intense fascination. As you help her wash the blood away, you notice something that makes your heart stop. She is not simply washing. She is rubbing the blood into her skin first, massaging it into the backs of her hands, her wrists, her forearms, and she is watching herself in the mirror as she does it, studying her reflection with that same intense focus she reserves for her morning examinations. "Don't you say it?" she asks suddenly, and you jump, nearly dropping the towel. Look closely. The skin where the blood touched. Does it not look ... younger? You look because you have no choice, but you see only blood and pale skin, and your own terrified face reflected behind her in the mirror. You murmur something non-committal, something that could be agreement or could be nothing at all. She seems satisfied with this and finishes washing, but the look of fascination does not leave her face. That night, Sarah's bed in the servants' quarters remains empty. Someone says she has been sent home to a village, but you all know this is a lie. Girls who displease the Countess do not go home. They simply disappear, and everyone pretends not to notice. But you cannot pretend away the sounds you heard from beneath the castle that night. Sounds that might have been Sarah screaming. Sounds that might have been something else, something worse. You lie awake, thinking about the needles, about the blood, about the way the Countess studied her hands afterward. You think about your own hands, young and smooth and unblemished. You think about your secret, the thing that marks you as different from the other servants, the thing that would make you valuable in ways you are only beginning to understand. You are a virgin, untouched, pure, and in this place where blood is becoming an obsession, where youth is worshipped and age is feared like death itself, you realize that your purity is both a protection and a target painted on your back. The next morning, when you bring the Countess her breakfast, she seems different. There is an energy to her movements, a brightness to her eyes that was not there before. She stands before her mirrors, turning this way and that, and for the first time since you arrived, she seems pleased with what she sees. "I slept wonderfully," she tells you. "No dreams, no disturbances, just perfect, black sleep like falling into velvet. And look," she holds out her hands for your inspection. "Do they not look younger to you? The skin smoother, the veins less visible." You agree because agreeing is surviving, and you help her dress in a gown of burgundy silk that makes her skin look even paler, like marble in moonlight. As you lace her corset, she hums a melody you do not recognize, something low and haunting that seems to come from another age, another world. When you finish, she turns to face you, and her smile is so beautiful and so terrible that you have to look away. "Youth," she says, "is not a gift. It is a resource. And like all resources, it can be harvested, collected, used by those who understand its value." Do you understand its value, Ilona? You nod, though you understand nothing except that something fundamental has changed in this place. Some boundary has been crossed that cannot be uncrossed. The Countess cups your face in her hands, and her touch is gentle this time, almost Lobin. "You are so young," she whispers. "So perfectly, beautifully young. Guard that youth well, my dear. There are those who would take it from you if they could." She releases you and sweeps from the room, leaving you standing there with the echo of her touch still burning on your cheeks. You do not yet understand that she has just told you exactly what she plans to do. You do not yet understand that the harvest has already begun, and you are standing in the middle of the field, ripe for the taking. Chapter 4. The obsession begins. The incident happens on a Thursday. You remember this because Thursday is when the Countess receives her correspondence. Letters from other noble families, invitations to gatherings she never attends, news from the wider world that she reads with detached interest before tossing into the fire. You are standing behind her chair, waiting to take the letters to burn, when one of the new serving girls, Agata, enters with a tray of wine. Agata is 15, fresh from a convent where she was taught to read and write, skills that make her valuable despite her tendency to daydream. She is pretty in the way that young girls are pretty, with clear skin and bright eyes and hair, the color of wheat. She is also nervous around the Countess, which manifests as clumsiness. As she sets down the tray, her hand shakes. The wine glass tips. Red liquid arcs through the air like a prayer to a dark god. Time seems too slow. You watch the wine fall, knowing what will happen when it lands, knowing there is nothing you can do to stop it. It splashes across the Countess's hand, across the letter she is holding, across the white lace cuff of her sleeve. The color is shocking against her pale skin, like blood on snow. The room goes silent. Even the fire seems to stop crackling. Agata stands frozen, her face draining of all color, until she is as white as the Countess herself. You wait for the explosion, for the rage that will certainly follow. But it does not come. The Countess is staring at her hand, at the wine that runs down her fingers and drips onto the floor. No, not at the wine, at Agata's hand, which in her terror she has pressed to her mouth, biting down so hard that blood wells up around her teeth. She must have bitten through her own finger in fear. The blood runs down her chin, drops onto her white apron, and somehow, in the confusion of the moment, a drop of it lands on the Countess's wine-stained hand. The change in the Countess's expression is like watching storm clouds part to reveal the sun. If the sun were something terrible and hungry, she holds up her hand, studying it in the firelight. The wine and blood have mixed together, creating patterns on her skin like a map to somewhere no one should ever go. She rubs at the mixture with her other hand, spreading it across her skin, and then she does something that makes your stomach heave. She lifts her hand to her face and inhales deeply, like someone smelling a bouquet of flowers. Agata makes a sound, half sob, half whimper, and tries to back away. But Fico is there, always there when needed, blocking the doorway with his bulk. The Countess rises from her chair with that unnatural grace, moving toward Agata like a tide toward shore, inevitable and destructive. "Your hand," she says softly. "Let me see your hand." Agata extends her bleeding finger, because disobedience is not an option here. The Countess takes it gently, almost tenderly, examining the wound. Blood continues to well up, running down Agata's hand, and the Countess catches it in her palm, collecting it like something precious. "Such young blood," she murmurs. "So warm, so vital. Do you know that physicians believe blood carries the essence of life itself? That in blood we can find the secrets of youth, of health, of beauty." She releases Agata's hand and returns to her mirror, the one that sits on her writing desk. She dips her fingers in the blood she has collected and begins to apply it to her face, dabbing it under her eyes, where the skin is thinnest, smoothing it across her forehead, where she imagines lines might form. The blood is bright against her white skin, garish and horrible, but she studies herself with such intensity that you wonder if she sees something different in the reflection. "Look," she commands, though whether she speaks to you, to Agata, or to herself, is unclear. "Do you see the skin where the blood touches? It glows. It tightens. It becomes new again. You see nothing but a woman painted in blood, but you nod anyway." Agata is crying silently, tears running down her face to mix with the blood on her chin. The Countess seems to have forgotten her entirely, lost in her reflection, in whatever madness has taken hold of her mind. "Fico," she says suddenly, "take the girl to Dorka. Have her wounds tended. We must not waste such a resource through carelessness." Fico drags Agata from the room, and you are left alone with the Countess as she continues her grotesque, cosmetic ritual. She applies the blood with the same care she uses for her white lead, creating patterns on her skin that look like ritual markings, like something from an ancient ceremony that should have been forgotten. There is power in blood, she tells you as she works. The Church knows this. Why else would they drink the blood of Christ? Why else would they tell us that blood is sacred? But they lie about whose blood matters. It is not the blood of a man dead for centuries that holds power. It is the blood of the young, the vital, the pure. She turns to you suddenly, and her face, painted in drying blood, is a mask from a nightmare. Her eyes burn with a fervor that might be religious if it were not so obviously profane. "Virgin blood," she whispers, moving closer to you. "That would be the most powerful of all. The blood of a girl untouched, uncorrupted. Imagine what that could do. Imagine the youth it could restore. Your heart pounds so hard you think it might burst from your chest. You force yourself to remain still, to show no reaction that might betray your secret. She studies you for a long moment, and you feel like a rabbit being circled by a wolf, waiting to see if it will pounce or pass by. "But you have been with men, yes?" she asks. "Pretty girl like you, surely you have had suitors. Surely you have tasted the pleasures of the flesh." You nod quickly, perhaps too quickly. "Yes, my lady. Back in my village, there was a boy." She looks disappointed but not suspicious. She returns to her mirror, to her blood painting, and you gradually remember how to breathe. But the seed has been planted. The obsession has begun. And you know with a certainty that chills your bones that this is only the beginning. Over the following days, the Countess's interest in blood grows from fascination to fixation. She has Dorka gather books from the library, ancient texts in Latin and Greek that speak of blood rituals and eternal life. She corresponds with physicians and alchemists, asking questions about the properties of blood, about its connection to youth and vitality. She has Fico bring her animals from the kitchens, live chickens and rabbits, and she drains their blood into bowls, bathing her hands and face in it, searching for some effect that only she can perceive. But animal blood is not enough. Soon, she begins to orchestrate small accidents among the servants. A girl pricks her finger on a needle that has been deliberately placed. Another cuts herself on a broken glass that was not broken until the Countess threw it at the wall. Each time, the Countess is there to collect the blood, to study it, to apply it to her skin with increasing desperation. You watch this descent into madness with growing horror, but also with the terrible knowledge that you are trapped. You cannot leave. Servants who try to leave Lactus are brought back and punished in ways that make Sarah's needles seem merciful. You cannot tell anyone. Who would believe you? And even if they did, who would dare stand against the Countess? She is the law in these lands. She is power incarnate. Then, one night, everything changes. Agata disappears. She is there at evening meal, silent and pale but present. By morning, her bed is empty. Dorka says she has been sent to work in one of the Countess's other properties, but her things are still here, her few possessions still in the chest at the foot of her bed. And that night, you hear sounds from below the castle, from the cellars where wine is stored and where no servants are allowed to go without permission. You hear screaming, not the brief, sharp screams of sudden pain, but long, drawn-out wails that go on until you have to press your hands over your ears to block them out. The other girls in your room huddle in their beds, pretending to sleep, pretending not to hear. But you all know what is happening. You all know that Agata has not been sent away. The next morning, the Countess looks different. Younger. It is not your imagination. Her skin has a glow to it, a suppleness that was not there before. She smiles more, moves with an energy that seems almost manic. She does not mention Agata. No one mentions Agata. But when you clean the Countess's chambers, you find a dress stuffed behind a chest. A simple servant's dress stained with so much blood it is stiff like leather. You recognize the embroidery on the collar. Agata made it herself. Little flowers that she was so proud of. You burn it in the fire and watch the smoke carry away another girl's life, another girl's story, another soul that will never be mourned. This is how it begins. This is the moment when whispered cruelty becomes systematic slaughter. The Countess has tasted what she believes is the fountain of youth, and like all addicts, she will need more and more to achieve the same effect. You can see it in her eyes, in the way she now looks at every young servant girl who crosses her path. She is a predator who has discovered prey, and the castle has become her hunting ground. You are arranging flowers in a vase, white roses that the Countess favors for their purity. When she speaks to you about her discovery, her voice is dreamy, distant, as if she is talking to herself. I have found it, Ilona, the secret that alchemists have sought for centuries, not in metals or stones or elaborate potions, but in the simplest thing. Blood, young blood, virgin blood, especially. It carries the essence of youth itself, and it can be transferred, absorbed, claimed by those who have the courage to take it. Your hands tremble as you position a rose, its thorn pricking your thumb. A drop of blood wells up, and before you can pull your hand away, the Countess has seized it. She studies the blood with such intensity that you feel like she might consume your entire hand. Then she does something that makes your soul recoil. She licks the blood from your thumb, her tongue rough like a cat's, her eyes never leaving yours. Sweet, she murmurs. So sweet, but not pure. I can taste it. You have been touched, claimed, corrupted. Still useful, perhaps, but not the prize I seek. She releases your hand, and you stumble backward, your thumb throbbing where her mouth touched it. There is something in her expression now, a hunger that was not there before, or perhaps was always there but hidden. Now it is naked, obvious, terrible. Find me a virgin, she commands, a young one. Untouched, unspoiled Dorka will know how to verify such things. There are ways to tell, examinations that can be performed. Find me what I need. You bow and flee the room, your mind racing. You know what she is asking. You know what will happen to whatever girl is brought to her. And you know that if anyone discovers your own secret, you will be that girl. The inner circle forms like a cancer, slowly at first, then with frightening speed. You are pulled into it, not by choice, but by proximity, by the simple fact that you are too close to the Countess to remain ignorant. There is Fico, of course, loyal as a dog, and twice as vicious. There is Dorka, who Ilona has served the family since the Countess was a child, and whose loyalty runs deeper than blood. There is Ilona Jew, The old nurse who tends to the Countess's body when she is ill, and who knows secrets about herbs and potions that no Christian woman should know. And there is Katlin Beneczki, a minor noble, fallen on hard times, who serves as a companion and who watches everything with cold, calculating eyes. You are gathered in the Countess's private study, on a November evening when the wind howls around the castle towers, like the voices of the damned. The fire casts dancing shadows on the walls, and in those shadows, you imagine you can see the faces of girls who have already disappeared. The Countess sits in her high-backed chair like a queen holding court, or perhaps more accurately, like a spider at the center of her web. What happens in this castle, stays in this castle, she begins, her voice low and hypnotic. What we do in service of something greater than conventional morality can understand. We serve beauty, we serve youth, we serve the defeat of death itself. Each of you has been chosen because I trust you, because I know you understand the importance of what we do here. She pauses, letting her words sink in. You want to scream that you understand nothing, that you want no part of this madness, but you remain silent because silence is survival. There will be rewards, of course, she continues. Gold for your loyalty, protection for your families, and for some of you, a taste of what I have discovered, youth extended beyond its natural span, beauty preserved like flowers in glass. But there will also be requirements. Absolute loyalty, absolute silence, and absolute participation. The last word hangs in the air like a blade. Participation. You know what this means. It is not enough to know and remain silent. You must help. You must be complicit. You must bloody your own hands so that you can never speak of what happens here without condemning yourself as well. Those who betray this trust, the Countess says, her eyes moving from face to face, will discover that there are worse things than death. Much worse. I have dungeons beneath this castle that have not seen light since they were carved from the living rock. I have instruments that were old when Christ walked the earth. I have ways of keeping someone alive and screaming for days, weeks, months. Do I make myself clear? Everyone nods. What else can you do? Good. Then, let us begin properly. Dorka, you will identify suitable girls from the surrounding villages, young, healthy, and most importantly, pure. Tell their families they are being brought to serve in the castle. Pay them if necessary. Most of these peasants would sell their own mothers for a handful of silver. Dorka nods, her face expressionless. You wonder how many girls she has already identified, how many she has already marked for death. Fico, you will handle the physical requirements, restraints, instruments, disposal. The castle has old wells that have been sealed for generations. They go deep, deeper than anyone knows. What falls down them is never found. Fico grants his understanding, and you see something in his eyes that makes you think he enjoys this, that the Countess has found in him a kindred spirit in cruelty. Ilona Jew, you will prepare the preservation methods. I want the blood kept fresh, potent. Your knowledge of herbs and tinctures will be invaluable, and perhaps you can find ways to enhance the effects, to make the transformations more dramatic. The old nurse nods slowly, and you realize that she has probably been helping the Countess with dark things for years, long before the blood obsession began. Catalin, you will maintain the appearance of normalcy. Ensure that visitors see nothing unusual, that the outside world remains ignorant. You have connections among the nobility. Use them to deflect any curiosity about missing servants. Cataline inclines her head gracefully, a small smile playing at her lips. Of all of them, she seems the least disturbed by what is being asked. And you, Ilona, the Countess turns to you, and your blood freezes. You will continue as my personal attendant, but with additional duties. You will help prepare the girls. Calm them? Make them comfortable? Before that. Before we begin, a familiar face, a gentle voice. These things make the process smoother. You nod, because your voice has fled. The Countess smiles, apparently satisfied with your response. Now, she says, rising from her chair, let me show you what we can achieve. She leads you all down a spiral staircase that you have never seen before, hidden behind a tapestry depicting the martyrdom of Saint Agnes. The irony is not lost on you. Down and down you go, deeper than you thought the castle went, until the air grows thick and cold and damp. The walls are no longer worked stone, but carved from the mountain itself, sweating moisture that makes everything slick and treacherous. At the bottom is a chamber that should not exist. It is circular with a domed ceiling that seems to press down, like the weight of all the earth above. In the center is a pool, carved from black stone, and filled with what looks like dark water, until the torchlight catches it, and you see it as blood. So much blood. More blood than one person could provide. More than 10 people. The Countess walks to the edge of the pool and begins to disrobe, letting her clothes fall to the floor with no shame or hesitation. Her body is pale as bone in the darkness, marked here and there with scars you had not expected. She steps into the pool, and the blood rises around her like a lover's embrace. "This is my bath of youth," she says, submerging herself up to her neck. "Every full moon, I bathe in the blood of virgins. I let it soak into every pore, every cell. And look at me. Look at what I have become." She rises from the pool, and the blood runs down her body in rivulets that look black in the torchlight. But her skin does seem to glow, seems to have an unnatural vitality that makes your eyes water to look at it. Whether this is real or simply madness shared by all who witness it, you cannot say. "Each of you will be rewarded for your service," she says, as Callan helps her into a robe. "Gold, as I promised. But also this, a taste of eternity. Ilona Jew, you have served me longoscum. Drink." The old nurse approaches the pool and kneels at its edge. She cups the blood in her hands and drinks deeply, and when she raises her face, it is smeared with red like a child who has been eating berries. But there is something different about her, a straightening of her bent spine, a brightness in her clouded eyes. One by one, the others approach and drink. Fico gulps it down like ale. Cataline sips, delicately, as if tasting wine. Dorca takes only a small amount, but her eyes close in what looks like ecstasy. Then, all eyes turn to you. You approach the pool because you have no choice. The blood is warm, warmer than it should be, and it smells of copper and something else, something sweet and rotten. You cup a tiny amount in your palm and bring it to your lips. The taste is salt and metal and wrongness, and it takes everything you have not to vomit. "Good," the Countess says. "Now we are bound. Now we are family, and families keep each other's secrets." As you climb back up the stairs, you realize that you have crossed the line from which there is no return. You have drunk blood. You have participated in the ritual. You are no longer an innocent bystander, but a member of this dark sisterhood. And the worst part is that you can feel something inside you responding to the blood. Some dark part of your soul that whispers of power and youth and the defeat of death. That night, you lie in your bed and think of home, of your mother, of the life you thought you would have. But that girl, that innocent girl who was chosen from the village square, she is dead now. In her place is something else. Something that knows the taste of blood. Something that will do terrible things to survive. The other servants sense the change. They avoid you now, the members of the inner circle. They lower their eyes when you pass, whisper prayers when they think you cannot hear. They know something evil is happening in the castle, even if they do not know the details. And they know that you are part of it. The first girl you help prepare is named Maria. She is 14 years old, with hair like spun gold and eyes the color of the summer sky. She comes from a village 3 days' ride from the castle, sold by her father for enough silver to feed his other 6 children through the winter. She arrives at the castle in December, when the snow lies thick on the ground and the cold seeps through the stones like death itself. You are tasked with making her comfortable, with gaining her trust. You bring her extra food from the kitchens, sweet cakes and honey that make her eyes light up with joy. You give her one of your own dresses, newer and warmer than the rags she arrived in. You brush her hair and tell her stories about the castle, carefully edited stories that paint it as a place of wonder rather than horror. She is so grateful, so pathetically grateful, for every small kindness. She tells you about her family, about her little brothers and sisters, about how proud she is to be able to help them by serving in such a grand castle. She asks you what the Countess is like, and you tell her she is beautiful and powerful, which is true even if it is not the whole truth. For a week, you tend to her, and despite yourself, you grow fond of her. She is sweet and innocent and trusting, everything that this place is not. You find yourself hoping that perhaps the Countess will change her mind, that perhaps Maria will be spared, but you know this is foolish. The Countess has marked her, and what the Countess marks, she takes. The night comes on the new moon, when the darkness is absolute. You give Maria a cup of wine mixed with herbs that Ilona Jew has prepared, herbs that'll make her drowsy and compliant. She drinks it without question because she trusts you. As her eyes grow heavy, she reaches for your hand. "Will you stay with me?" she asks, her words slurring. "I am frightened of the dark." You hold her hand as the herbs take effect, as her breathing deepens and her grip loosens. Then Fico comes, and you help him carry her to the chamber below, the chamber with the black pool. She is so light in your arms, like a child, like a doll. The Countess is waiting, dressed in a robe of black silk that makes her skin look like moonlight. The pool has been drained and cleaned, ready for fresh blood. There are chains on the walls now, iron chains that end in shackles. There is a table with knives arranged by size, their blades gleaming. There are bowls and bottles and all the tools of a nightmare. You help chain Maria to the wall. She stirs slightly, but does not wake. Her head lolls forward, her golden hair falling like a curtain across her face. You want to brush it back, to comfort her, but you know that kindness now would be a cruelty. Better that she never wakes. Better that she never knows. But the Countess has other plans. She takes a vial from Ilona Jew, something that smells sharp and makes your eyes water. She waves it under Maria's nose, and the girl jerks awake, gasping. Her eyes are wide and confused, and when she sees where she is, when she sees the chains, the fear that blooms on her face is something that will haunt you forever. "Where am I?" she cries, pulling at the chains. "Please. What is happening? Ilona, help me." You step back into the shadows, because you cannot bear to have her looking at you, pleading with you. The Countess approaches her slowly, and Maria shrinks back against the wall, trying to make herself small, trying to disappear. "You are about to give me a great gift," the Countess says, running a finger along Maria's cheek. "Your youth, your purity, your very essence. You should be honored. You will become part of something eternal." Maria is sobbing now, great gasping sobs that echo off the stone walls. The Countess selects a knife, small and sharp, and makes the first cut along Maria's arm. The blood wells up immediately, running down to drip into a bowl that Dorka holds beneath. Maria screams, and the sound is like nothing human, like the sound the world might make if it could express pain. The Countess works methodically, making cuts that bleed but do not kill. Not immediately. She knows anatomy, knows where to cut to maximize blood flow while keeping the victim alive. Maria's screams become whimpers, then silence as she loses consciousness, then screams again as she is revived. This goes on for hours. You stand in the corner, useless, worse than useless, complicit. You watch as the bowls fill with blood. You watch as the Countess periodically dips her fingers in the fresh blood and applies it to her face, her neck, her hands. You watch as Maria grows paler and paler, as her voice grows weaker, as the light in those sky-blue eyes begins to fade. When it is finally over, when Maria hangs limp in the chains, drained of blood and life, the Countess is radiant. She looks younger, more vital, more beautiful than you have ever seen her. She bathes in the collected blood, submerging herself completely, and when she emerges, she looks like something newborn, something that has shed an old skin and emerged to renewed. "Dispose of the remains," she commands, and Fico unchains what is left of Maria. As he carries the body away, something falls from the corpse's hand, a small wooden cross, crudely carved, that Maria must have held hidden in her palm throughout the ordeal. You pick it up when no one is looking and pocket it. Later, alone in your room, you will hold it and try to pray, but the words will not come, because what God would listen to someone like you now? This becomes the pattern. Every few weeks, another girl arrives. You prepare them, gain their trust, drug them, and deliver them to the chamber. Each time, you tell yourself that you have no choice, that refusing would mean your own death. But you know this is only partly true. You could resist. You could refuse. But you are a coward, and your cowardice makes you a monster. The Countess's appetite grows. 1 girl a month is not enough. Then 1 a week is not enough. She begins to experiment with different methods. Some girls are drained slowly over days. Others are bled quickly in a frenzy of violence. She bathes in their blood, drinks it, has it mixed into her food and wine. She has Ilona Jew create salves and tinctures from it that she applies to her skin multiple times a day. And it seems to work. The Countess does look younger. Her skin is smoother, her hair thicker, her movements more graceful. Whether this is the blood or simply her madness manifesting as confidence, you cannot say. But others notice too. Visiting nobles comment on her beauty, marvel at her youth. She tells them it is clean living and prayer, and they believe her because what else could it be? You learn to move through your days in a state of numbness, performing your duties without thinking, without feeling. You help girls to their deaths the way another might help them dress for a ball. You clean blood from floors and walls, with the same detachment you once cleaned spilled wine. You have become something hollow, something that looks like a person but is empty inside. But at night, when you lie in your bed, the faces come to you. Maria, with her golden hair. Sarah, with her pierced hands. Agatha, with her bitten finger. And all the others. So many others that their faces blend together into one face, the face of innocence destroyed. You do not sleep much anymore. When you do, your dreams are red. Spring comes late to the mountains, and with it comes Anna Dar. She arrives on a day when the last of the winter snow is melting, creating rivers of muddy water that make the courtyard treacherous. She is ancient, or at least she seems ancient, with wild gray hair and eyes that have seen too much. She claims to be a healer, a woman who knows the old ways, but everyone can see what she really is. She is a witch. The Countess has sent for her specifically, hearing rumors of her knowledge of blood magic, of rituals that predate Christianity, of ways to extend life beyond its natural span. Anna Darvilia looks at the castle, at the servants who scurry away from her gaze, at the ravens that circle endlessly overhead, and she smiles a toothless smile. "This place reeks of death," she says to the Countess, when they meet. "Death and something else. Something hungry. You have been experimenting." "Yes, but you are like a child playing with fire. You need guidance. You need the old knowledge." The Countess, who would have anyone else flogged for speaking to her so boldly, merely nods. She is desperate now, you realize. The blood is no longer enough. She needs more and more to achieve the same effect, and the supply of young virgins is not infinite. Villages are beginning to whisper about missing daughters. Even Catalan's influence among the nobility cannot keep all questions at bay forever. Anna Darvilia moves into the castle and immediately makes changes. The chamber below is altered according to her specifications. Strange symbols are carved into the walls, symbols that hurt to look at directly. She has FICO dig channels in the floor that create patterns that will direct the flow of blood in specific ways. She brings herbs and substances that smell of sulfur and decay, things that she adds to the blood to increase its potency. Under her guidance, the rituals become more elaborate, more terribly. It is no longer enough to simply drain a girl's blood. Now there are words that must be spoken, incantations and languages that predate Hungarian, that predate any language you know. The girls must be killed at specific times, when the stars are in certain positions, when the moon is at particular phases. Anna Darvulia teaches the Countess that fear makes the blood more potent. A girl who dies in terror, whose veins are flooded with the chemistry of panic, provides more youth than one who dies peacefully. So the deaths become slower, more theatrical, designed to produce maximum horror. The girls are shown the bodies of those who came before. They are told in exquisite detail what will happen to them. They are given false hope of escape, only to have it snatched away. You watch the Countess transform under the witch's tutelage. She becomes something more and less than human. Her beauty is now tinged with something otherworldly, something that makes people uncomfortable even as it attracts them. Her eyes sometimes reflect light like a cat's. Her teeth seem sharper, and sometimes, when she thinks no one is watching, you see her moving in ways that human bodies should not move, bending at angles that should break bones, stretching in dimensions that should not exist. The witch also teaches the Countess about virgin blood specifically, confirming what she has suspected. Virgin blood is the most powerful, the most transformative, but it must be verified. Anna Darvilia shows Dorka and the others how to examine girls, how to determine their purity with degrading inspections that make you sick to witness. You live in constant fear that they will decide to verify your own status, but your early lie about a village boy seems to have satisfied them, for now. One night, you are summoned to attend a special ritual. The witch has identified a particularly powerful date, a convergence of astronomical events that happens only once in a generation. 3 girls have been prepared, sisters from the same family, all virgins, all between the ages of 12 and 16. The ritual will require all of the inner circle to participate. The chamber below has been transformed into something from a nightmare. The symbols on the walls seem to writhe in the torchlight. The channels in the floor have been filled with mercury, creating gleaming silver lines that form a pentagram. In the center is not the usual pool but an iron maiden that Anna Darvulia has somehow procured, its interior lined with spikes, its face carved into a mockery of the Virgin Mary. The 3 sisters are brought in, and their terror is absolute. They cling to each other, sobbing, praying, begging in voices that break with fear. The youngest one, who cannot be more than 12, has wet herself, and the smell of urine mixes with the incense that Anna Darvulia burns, creating a stench that makes everyone gag. The witch begins the incantation, and the words are like physical things, heavy and dark, pressing down on everyone in the room. The Countess stands in the center of the pentagram, naked except for jewelry made from the bones of previous victims. You stand at one point of the star, holding a bowl to catch blood. The others stand at the other points, each with their own role in this blasphemous ceremony. The eldest sister is put into the Iron Maiden first. The door closes slowly, and you hear the exact moment when the spikes penetrate her skin. Hear her scream change from fear to agony. Blood begins to flow from the bottom of the device, following the channels in the floor, creating the outline of the pentagram in crimson. The witch's chanting grows louder, and you feel something changing in the air, something entering the room that should not be there. The Countess begins to change. Her skin ripples like water. Her hair grows longer, darker, moving of its own accord like living snakes. Her eyes turn completely black, reflecting nothing, absorbing all light. When she opens her mouth to join in the chanting, you see rows of teeth like a shark's, impossible teeth that should not fit in a human mouth. The second sister is brought forward, and what happens to her is worse because she has seen what awaits her. She fights with the strength of absolute desperation, clawing at Fico's face, drawing blood. But she is small, and he is large, and soon she too is in the Iron Maiden, her screams joining her sisters in a harmony of horror. The air in the chamber grows thick, almost solid. You can barely breathe. The symbols on the walls are definitely moving now, crawling like living things. Something is happening to reality itself, as if the ritual is tearing holes in the world, letting something else bleed through. When they bring the youngest sister forward, something in you finally breaks. This child, this tiny girl who looks so much like your own little sister back in the village, you cannot watch this happen to her. You drop your bowl, and it shatters on the stone floor. Everyone turns to look at you. "I cannot," you say, and your voice sounds strange, like it belongs to someone else. She is a child. This is too much. This is too far. The Countess turns her impossible black eyes on you, and when she speaks, her voice is like the sound of bones breaking. "You dare to question me. You dare to interrupt the ritual." Anna Darvulia hisses like a cat, her fingers making signs in the air that leave trails of green fire. The ritual is disrupted. The energy that has been building has nowhere to go. The air itself seems to scream. And then everything goes wrong. The blood in the channels begins to boil, sending up steam that smells of sulfur and burnt meat. The symbols on the walls burst into flame, real flame that spreads across the stone in ways that fire should not be able to spread. The Iron Maiden flies open, and the two girls inside fall out, not dead, but changed. Their eyes rolled back to show only white, their mouths opening and closing without sound. The Countess screams, and it is not a human scream. It is the sound of every girl who has died in this chamber. All their voices combined into one terrible note that shatters the bottles on the shelves, that makes blood run from everyone's ears. She falls to the ground, convulsing, her body shifting between her normal appearance and something monstrous, something that has too many limbs and too many mouths. Anna Darvulia shouts words in her ancient language, trying to contain what has been unleashed, but it is too late. Something has gone wrong with the ritual, and the power that should have been controlled is now wild, destructive. The youngest sister, the one you tried to save, is caught in the supernatural storm. She ages before your eyes, her hair turning white, her skin wrinkling, her body shriveling until she is nothing but dust and bones. Then, as suddenly as it began, it ends. The fires go out. The Countess lies still on the floor, returned to her human form but unconscious. The two girls from the Iron Maiden are dead, their bodies twisted into positions that suggest they died trying to escape from their own skin. And Anna Darvulia is on her knees, blood running from her nose and eyes, looking older than before, as if the ritual has taken years from her life. "You fool," she spits at you. "You stupid, stupid girl. Do you have any idea what you have done? The ritual was supposed to make her immortal. Instead, you have cursed her, cursed us all. The hunger will grow worse now. It will never be satisfied, and it will spread like a plague until it consumes everything." You help carry the Countess back to her chambers, and when she wakes, she remembers nothing of what happened after the ritual began. But Anna Darvulia is right. Something has changed. The Countess's hunger for blood is no longer controlled. She needs it constantly now. Multiple victims a day. Her appearance fluctuates wildly, sometimes young and beautiful, sometimes ancient and hideous, changing from moment to moment based on how recently she has fed. And worse, the curse is indeed spreading. Dorka begins to age rapidly unless he too drinks blood. Fico develops sores that will not heal without blood applied directly to them. Even you feel it, annoying hunger that food cannot satisfy, a thirst that water cannot quench. You have not drunk blood since that first ritual, but the need for it grows stronger every day. The castle becomes a slaughterhouse. Girls are brought in by the dozen, kept in the dungeons until needed, The screams echo constantly through the halls, no longer confined to specific ritual times. The Countess bathes in blood 3 times a day, drinks it with every meal, has it injected directly into her veins by Anna Darvilia, who has become more servant than advisor, desperately trying to keep her mistress stable. Among the steady stream of victims, one stands out. Her name is Elizabeth. Like the Countess, though she goes by Erzi. She is 16, with dark hair and eyes that remind you painfully of yourself at that age. Before this place destroyed everything good in you. But unlike you, she is not afraid. Is angry. She arrives in chains because she fought the men who took her, blackening Fico's eye and biting through Dorca's hand. Even now, locked in the dungeons, she rattles her chains and screams curses that would make a soldier blush. When you bring her food, she throws it back at you. When you try to speak kindly to her, she spits in your face. You do not serve her by choice, she says. I can see it in your eyes. You are as much a prisoner here as I am. Help me escape, and we can both be free. You want to laugh at her naivety, but you cannot, because you see yourself in her, the person you might have been if you had been braver. You try to explain that escape is impossible, that the castle is a fortress, that the Countess has eyes everywhere. But Erzis does not accept impossibility. She tells you about her life before this place. She was training to be a healer, learning from her grandmother, who knew the old ways of herbs and medicine. She had a sweetheart, a blacksmith's apprentice who was saving money so they could marry. She had a future, a life, dreams that extended beyond surviving another day. Every person here was someone, she says. Every girl who has died had a story, a family, people who loved them. How can you stand it? How can you help murder them and still look at yourself? You have no answer because there is no answer that would satisfy her, no explanation that would make your complicity acceptable. You are a coward, and your cowardice has made you a monster. But her words plant seeds of something you thought had died in you. Shame, guilt, and maybe, just maybe, the tiniest spark of rebellion. You begin to visit her regularly, bringing extra food, clean water, blankets, to make her more comfortable. You tell yourself you are just doing your duty, preparing her as you have prepared so many others. But you know this is different. You are not gaining her trust to betray it. You are gaining it because you desperately need someone to see you as human again, even if you do not deserve it. Erzi tells you things about the outside world, about how the families of missing girls are beginning to organize, how they are demanding answers. She tells you that the local priest has written to the church authorities, that there are whispers of an investigation. The Countess's power is vast, but it is not infinite. Even she cannot murder forever without consequence. Then Erzi tells you something that changes everything. I know what you are, she says one day, her voice quiet but certain. I can see it in the way you move, the way you hold yourself. You are untouched, a virgin, like me. Your blood turns to ice. You deny it, but she shakes her head. My grandmother taught me to read people, to see the truth they try to hide. You have kept this secret because you know what it means here. But think about this. If the Countess knew, you would already be dead, which means you have been lying to her. Successfully. For months. You are not as powerless as you believe. That night, you lie awake thinking about her words. You have been lying to the Countess, the woman who terrifies everyone, who seems to see through all deception. But she has not seen through yours. Perhaps because she is so focused on her own hunger that she does not look too closely at those who serve it. Perhaps you are not as powerless as you have believed. The next time you visit Erzi, you make a decision that surprises even you. I will help you. You whisper. I do not know how, but I will find a way. We will escape this place. Erzi grabs your hand through the bars, and her grip is strong, warm, alive. It is the first genuinely human contact you have had in months, and it makes you want to weep. But escape is easier said than done. The castle is indeed a fortress, with guards at every exit, walls too high to climb, and a forest full of wolves surrounding it. Moreover, you are watched constantly by the other members of the inner circle. Dorca's suspicious eyes follow you everywhere. Fico seems to materialize whenever you go somewhere you should not be, and the Countess, though increasingly lost in her blood madness, still has moments of terrible clarity when her black eyes see everything. You begin to plan anyway, gathering information like a spy. You learn the guard rotations, identify which ones drink too much wine at their posts. You discover a postern gate that is rarely used, its lock rusted and weak. You steal small items that might be useful. A knife from the kitchens, a length of rope from the stables, a vial of the sleeping herbs that Ilona Jew uses. But as you plan, the situation in the castle deteriorates. The Countess's hunger has become insatiable. She is killing 3, 4, 5 girls a day now, bathing in their blood constantly. And still she ages before your eyes, whenever the blood is not fresh. Anna Darvulia works desperately to find a solution. But even her dark knowledge seems insufficient. Then comes the night when everything begins to unravel. The Countess, in a frenzy of bloodlust, kills a girl who is not a peasant, but the daughter of a minor noble who is visiting the castle. The girl had wandered into the wrong part of the castle, and the Countess, too lost in her hunger to check who she was, drained her on the spot. When the girl's father discovers what has happened, his rage is volcanic. He threatens to go to the king, to the emperor himself, if necessary. Catalan manages to calm him temporarily with bribes and threats, but the damage is done. Word spreads among the nobility that something is terribly wrong at Čachtice Castle. The Countess, in a rare moment of clarity, realizes the danger. She orders a massive ritual, one that will supposedly cure her hunger permanently. Every virgin in the dungeons is to be sacrificed at once, their combined blood creating a pool deep enough to drown in. Anna Darvulia protests that such a ritual is too dangerous, that it could tear apart the very fabric of reality, but the Countess will not be deterred. This is your chance. While everyone prepares for the grand ritual, their attention focused entirely on the complex preparations, you slip down to the dungeons. Erze is there, along with 15 other girls, all of them scheduled to die tonight. You unlock Erze's cell with keys you have stolen from a drunken guard. We go now, you whisper. During the ritual, everyone will be in the chamber below. We can slip out through the postern gate. What about the others? Erze asks, looking at the girls in the other cells, their faces pale with terror. You want to say there is no time, that saving one is hard enough, but looking at their faces, so young, so frightened, you know you cannot leave them to die. You unlock every cell, telling the girls to follow quietly, to do exactly as you say. You lead them through the castle's maze of corridors, your heart pounding so hard you think it might burst from your chest. Every shadow could be Fico, every sound could be Dorka, coming to check on you. But your luck holds. You reach the postern gate, and the lock breaks Isele under the knife you have stolen. The gate swings open, revealing the dark forest beyond. Freedom. After so many months, freedom is just steps away. Go, you tell the girls. Run into the forest. Follow the stream down the mountain. It will lead you to a village. Tell them what happens here. Tell everyone. The girls flee into the darkness. Erze last of all. She pauses at the gate, looking back at you. Come with us, she says. You can be free to you want to go. Every fiber of your being wants to run into that forest and never look back. But you shake your head. Someone needs to stay, you say, to slow them down when they realize you are gone, to give you time to get away. And ... And someone needs to bear witness, to remember all the girls who cannot escape. Erze hugs you, a brief, fierce embrace that reminds you what human warmth feels like. Then she is gone, disappearing into the trees like a deer, and you are alone. You return to the castle, to your room, and wait. It does not take long. The screams that echo from below are different this time. Not the screams of victims, but of rage. The ritual has been disrupted by the absence of the sacrifices. Whatever dark magic Anna Darvulia was attempting has turned on itself. Footsteps thunder up the stairs. Your door explodes inward, and there stands the Countess. But she is barely recognizable. Her face is ancient, skin hanging in folds, hair white and thin. Her eyes are still black, but now they are sunken deep in her skull. The disrupted ritual has aged her decades in minutes. You, she hisses, and her voice is the sound of dry leaves crumbling. You did this. You freed them. You do not deny it. There is no point. You stand straight, meeting her terrible gaze, and for the first time since you arrived at this castle, you are not afraid. You have done something good, something right. Whatever happens now, you have saved 16 lives. The Countess moves toward you with that unnatural grace that age has not diminished, and her skeletal hands close around your throat. But before she can squeeze, before she can end your life, Dorka bursts in. My lady, soldiers. Soldiers at the gates. The girls, they reached the village. They told everyone. The king's men are here. The Countess releases you, her attention turned to this new threat. She sweeps from the room, calling for Fico, for her defenders, for anyone who can stop what is coming. But it is too late. The crimes of Čachtice Castle have finally been exposed, and justice long delayed, is at the door. The siege, if it can be called that, lasts 3 days. The king's soldiers, led by the Palatine himself, Count Thurzo, surround the castle and demand entry. The countess, in her madness, refuses. She stands on the battlements, her appearance shifting between youth and age as the blood magic fights against the disrupted ritual's curse, screaming that she is above the law, that no one can judge her. Inside the castle, chaos reigns. Some servants flee through whatever exits they can find. Others, too terrified of the countess's wrath, stay and try to hide evidence of the crimes. Bodies are thrown down the old wells that Fico spoke of. The torture instruments are hidden or destroyed. The chamber below is sealed, though the stench of blood is so strong that it seeps through the very stones. You are trapped in the middle of this madness. The countess has not forgotten your betrayal, but she has no time to deal with you properly. Instead, you are locked in your room, waiting for whatever fate awaits you. Through your small window, you can see the soldiers' campfires dotting the landscape like stars brought to earth. On the second day, Anna Darvulia comes to your room. The witch looks older than ever, her face a map of wrinkles, her hands shaken with palsy. The disrupted ritual has affected her too, draining her of whatever dark vitality she once possessed. You doomed us all, she says, but there is no anger in her voice, only exhaustion. Perhaps it is better this way. Perhaps some things should not be attempted, some boundaries should not be crossed. I thought I could control it, the blood magic. I thought I could harness it, but it harnesses you instead. It makes you its slave. She sits on your bed, and for a moment, she is just an old woman, tired and broken. I was like you once, she continues. Young, innocent, I had a gift for healing, for understanding herbs and remedies. But healing was not enough. Primera wanted more power, knowledge of the ability to defeat death itself. And look what I became. Look what we all became. She pulls something from her robes, a vial of clear liquid that catches the light like crystal. This is hemlock, she says, placing it on your bedside table. Enough for a peaceful death, if you choose it. Better than what the countess will do to you, if she gets the chance. Better than what the authorities will do if they decide you are guilty too. Then she leaves, and you are alone with the poison and your thoughts. That night, the servants who remained loyal to the countess make a desperate attempt to break the siege. They try to sneak her out through a secret tunnel that leads to the forest. But the soldiers are waiting. Someone, perhaps one of the escaped girls, knew about the tunnel and told them. The countess is dragged back to the castle, screaming and cursing in languages that hurt to hear. On the third day, the gates are opened from within. Cataline, always the survivor, has made a deal with Count Thurzo. She will testify against the countess in exchange for her own freedom. The soldiers pour into the castle like water breaking through a dam, and what they find in the chambers below makes hardened warriors vomit and weep. You are brought before Count Thurzo himself, a man with kind eyes and a sad face, who looks like he has aged years in the past 3 days. He asks you questions about what you have seen, what you have done. You tell him everything, holding nothing back. You describe the rituals, the murders, the bloodbaths. You name every girl you can remember, though there are so many that their faces blur together. You helped with these crimes, he says, and it is not a question. Yes, you reply. I was a coward. I was afraid. But yes, I helped. You also freed the girls who escaped, who brought word to us. Yes, he studies you for a long moment, this man who holds your life in his hands. Then he nods. You will testify, he says. You will tell the court everything you have told me. You will help us understand the full extent of what happened here. In exchange, you will be granted mercy. Exile, not execution. A chance to find redemption, if such a thing is possible. You agree? Because what else can you do? But you know that redemption is not something a court can grant. It is something you'll have to find yourself, if it exists at all for someone like you. The trial is a sensation. The Blood Countess, as the newspapers call her, becomes infamous throughout Europe. The testimonies of the survivors, including Erzy, who speaks with fierce eloquence about the horrors she witnessed, shock even those who thought they knew the depths of human cruelty. The Countess herself remains defiant to the end. She claims that everything she did was within her rights as a noble, that the girls were her property to do with as she pleased. She shows no remorse, no understanding that what she did was evil. Even as the evidence mounts, as servant after servant testifies against her, she maintains that she is the victim, persecuted for seeking eternal life. Anna Darvulia dies before the trial ends, found in her cell with foam on her lips and a smile on her face. Some say she poisoned herself. Others say the dark forces she served finally collected their due. Her body is burned, and the ashes scattered to prevent any possibility of her returning. Fico is executed, hanged from the castle walls, as a warning to others. He goes to his death silently, his face expressionless, taking whatever secrets he held to the grave. Dorka and Ilona Jew are also condemned to death, though Ilona Jew dies in prison before the sentence can be carried out. Her body simply giving up, as if she has decided to stop living. Cataline, true to the deal she made, is released. She disappears immediately, and rumor says she fled to Italy, where she lives under another name, probably still manipulating and surviving as she always has. The Countess is not executed. Her noble blood protects her from that final indignity. Instead, she is sentenced to be walled up in her own castle, sealed into a few rooms with only a small slot for food and water to be passed through. It is a living death, a tomb with a heartbeat. You are present when the masons come to seal her in. She stands in the doorway of what will be her prison, and for a moment, she looks exactly as she did when you first met her. Beautiful, powerful, terrifying. The blood magic flickers one last time, showing the illusion of what she tried so hard to preserve. You did this, she says to you, her voice carrying across the great hall. You destroyed everything, but you cannot escape what you are. You have tasted blood, you have felt the power. It will call to you for the rest of your days. You will never be free of it. The masons place the final stones, and the Countess disappears from view. But her words stay with you because you know they are true. You do feel it, the hunger that the disrupted ritual awakened in everyone it touched. Not for blood, exactly, but for something, some missing piece that normal life can never provide. You leave Čachtice Castle with nothing but the clothes on your back and a small purse of coins that Count Thurzo gave you out of pity. You do not return to your village. You cannot face your mother, cannot bear to see yourself reflected in her eyes. Instead, you travel to a city where no one knows your name, where you can disappear into the crowd. You find work as a washerwoman. The irony not lost on you that you now spend your days removing stains from fabric just as you once cleaned blood from stone floors. You live quietly, speaking to no one beyond what is necessary. At night, you dream of the castle, of the girls who died, of the Countess bathing in blood. Years pass, you hear news occasionally of Čachtice. The Countess lived for 4 years sealed in her rooms, found dead one morning with no mark on her body, her face frozen and an expression of terrible hunger. The castle is abandoned, considered cursed. Locals say that on certain nights, you can still hear screaming from within its walls. You age, as all people do, and sometimes you catch yourself studying your reflection, looking for signs of decay. The hunger the Countess spoke of never fully goes away. It lives in you like a parasite, whispering that you could have had eternal youth, eternal beauty, if only you had been stronger, more committed, more willing to pay the price. But you know the truth. There is no price worth paying for what the Countess sought. Every drop of blood she spilled, every life she took, only fed a hunger that could never be satisfied. She did not defeat death. She became Italiano. You never marry, never have children. How could you bring life into the world when you have taken so much of it away? Instead, you live with your ghosts, the faces of dead girls who visit you in quiet moments. You remember their names, their stories, the dreams they had before they entered Čachtice Castle. It is the only penance you can offer. You are an old woman now, older than the Countess ever lived to be, when you finally decide to tell your story in full. You find a priest, a young man with gentle eyes, who reminds you of no one, and you confess everything. Not for absolution, because some sins cannot be absolved, but because someone should know the complete truth. You tell him about the beauty that masked monstrous evil. You tell him about the slow corruption of everyone who served it. You tell him about your cowardice, your complicity, your eventual small act of redemption that saved 16 lives but could not bring back the hundreds who died. You tell him about the hunger that blood magic creates, the hollow place it carves in your soul that nothing can fill. You tell him that the Countess was right about one thing. You are never free of it. It lives in you until your last breath, a reminder of what humans can become when they try to transcend their humanity. The priest listens in silence, his face growing paler with each revelation. When you finish, he asks you a question you did not expect. Do you regret freeing those girls? No, you answer immediately. It was the only good thing I did in that place, the only moment when I chose to be human instead of a monster. Then you are not beyond redemption, he says. You carry hell with you, yes, but you also carry the knowledge of good and evil. You know the cost of sin because you have paid it. That knowledge is its own form of grace. You want to believe him, but you know better. Some things cannot be redeemed, only endured. You thank him for listening, and leave the church, stepping into the afternoon sunlight that seems too bright after the darkness of confession. That night, you dream one last time of Čachtice Castle. But this time you are not in the chamber below, or the Countess's rooms. You are in the courtyard, and it is full of girls, all the ones who died, but they are not dead in the dream. They are dancing, laughing, free. Ursa is there, and Maria, and Sarah, and Agatha, and hundreds of others, whose names you never knew. They do not speak to you, but they do not turn away either. They simply exist in this dream space, living the lives they were denied. And for the first time in decades, you'll feel something like peace. You die in your sleep 3 days later, and if anyone notices the passing of an old washerwoman who kept her herself, they do not mark it. But somewhere, in whatever place souls go when bodies fail, perhaps there is a reckoning. Perhaps the girls you helped kill are waiting to judge you. Perhaps the ones you saved are there to speak in your defense. Or perhaps there is only silence, the same silence that fills Čachtice Castle now, broken only by wind and the cries of ravens who still circle the towers, waiting for something that will never come again. But you, listening to this story from the safety of your own time, remember this: you were Ilona, a peasant girl who became a monster's handmaiden. You felt the weight of heavy keys at your waist and heavier sins on your conscience. You tasted blood and found it bitter. You saved who you could and damned yourself in the process. And in the end, when the Countess looked at you through the stones that sealed her tomb, her beautiful face ravaged by hunger that could never be satisfied, you understood the truth that she never could. We are all prisoners of our choices, but the walls that hold us are of our own making. The blood has long since been washed from the stones of Čachtice, but the stories remain, whispered in the dark. Warnings about the price of vanity, the cost of power, and the hunger that consumes those who try to consume others. You were there. You saw it all. And now, finally, you can rest. History remembers Elizabeth Báthory as the Blood Countess, a monster who killed hundreds in pursuit of eternal youth. But history forgets the servants who enabled her, the system that protected her, the ordinary people who became accomplices to extraordinary evil. You were one of those forgotten people, and your story is a reminder that monsters do not exist in isolation. They are created, supported, and sustained by those who choose servitude over resistance, silence over truth, survival over justice, until the very end, when 16 girls ran free into the forest because you finally chose to act. That is what you leave behind. Not redemption, but a single moment of courage in an ocean of cowardice. It is not enough to balance the scales, but it is something, and sometimes, in the arithmetic of evil, something is all we can offer. The castle still stands, empty and crumbling, a monument to horror that tourists photograph without understanding. They do not know about the chamber below, now sealed and flooded. They do not know about the wells full of bones, the walls that absorbed so much blood they can never be truly clean. But you know, you were there. You were complicit. You were a victim. You were a perpetrator. You were human in all its terrible complexity. And now, as this story ends, and you return to your own life, your own time, your own choices, remember this evil requires ordinary people to flourish. It needs those who clean its floors, who turn away from its screams, who choose their own survival over others' lives. But it only takes one moment of courage, one person saying no more, to begin its downfall. You were Ilona. You served a monster, and in the end, just once, you chose to be something more.